It is Monday, October 10th, 2016. I call to order the meeting of the Goose Creek Consolidated Independent School District. Before we proceed with tonight's agenda, I would like to remind everyone in attendance that this meeting is being recorded through video and audio technology. At this time, I ask that everyone silence or turn off all electrical devices. Thank you. Ms. Woods, was this meeting properly posted?
Yes.
And do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Tonight, our opening exercises will be handled by the board. Mr. Laredo will lead us in prayer, and Ms. Cockrell in the pledges. Would you please stand?
You bow your heads and join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here today. We ask you to please guide us in making good decisions tonight, to help our teachers, our students, all of our staff, as we're already into the second 6 weeks of school. We ask you to help us inspire them to educate our students to make good positive decisions in our country in the time when we need them the most. We ask in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. In Dr. Duarte's absence tonight, we will have Mr. O'Brien introduce the recognitions and acknowledgments portion of our meeting.
At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Kelchner up to the podium to introduce our Special Olympics recognition.
Thank you. Mr. Sharp, trustees, Mr. O'Brien, thank you for the opportunity. We are very, very proud. Special Olympics is a very, very critical component of our district, of our special education program. We were recently honored by Texas Special. In other words, y'all can hear me without the microphone. Okay. Sorry. It is a very critical component of our district, of our community, of our special education program. Recently, we were honored by the Texas Special Olympics for programming that we have collaboratively developed in putting together field days to offer opportunities for our younger students. Our Special Olympics program, a great program, has been going on for, this year will be our 29th year, with high school and older students involved. Our thrust beginning last year was to provide access to elementary and junior school students. And we're very, very proud of the efforts of our entire team for putting that together. So I'd first like to invite our head of delegation, Ms. Stacy Saxon, and coaches Elizabeth Phillips and Kiki Stannis to the podium with me. They're the ones who make this happen on a daily basis and have given a tremendous amount of hours of dedication over many years. And I would like to introduce our special guest, Mr. Aaron Keith, who is with Region 4 of the Texas Special Olympics, to explain the recognition that we have received. And no, don't leave, Aaron. And making a perfect entrance, Miss Renee Klavinsky, who is the program director for Region 4 of Texas Special Olympics. So Renee and Aaron, if y'all would do us the honor.
Apologize for being late. Hi.
Perfect timing.
Well, no, it's not, but thank you. You're very sweet. I think I wrote some notes, but I don't have my glasses to read. I just wanted to say to everyone that's here how much we appreciate this school district. For over 30 years, the school district has supported Special Olympics. It has 16 active sports and has demonstrated community stability and in improving and impacting the lives of your students, families, and volunteers in the community. And for that, we're very grateful. Each year, Special Olympics works to recognize our volunteers and our volunteer groups that give an exorbitant amount of time for our athletes. Excuse me, I'm out of breath. This year's award for our Service for Outreach award that I'd like to present to Dr. Kelsner and to Stacy and Elizabeth for their work is, and Kiki, I apologize. I'm a little bit on the nervous side. But this outreach award has been presented to you all for an exorbitant amount of growth for our Houston area program. We serve nearly 10,000 athletes in the Houston area. This past year, this school district, due to some changes that are happening, put together and top down an event or committee that started with the superintendent, our athletic director, special ed, transportation folks, food services. Everyone came together as a district to put together an event to help us outreach and show our families and students what they had to offer in terms of Special Olympics. Now, on those 2 days, the weather didn't work with us very well. It was cold, it was raining, lots of lightning, and unfortunately we had to modify the hard work that this committee and these ladies that led this along with Dr. Kelsner did for their students. But we had over 150 athletes or potentially new athletes to the Goose Creek program be introduced to what they do in Special Olympics. Now, did that turn over to athletes doing their after-school program? Not as many as we had wished, and I do truly believe that's because of the part the weather played in those days. But because of the efforts of this district coming together and helping Aaron and I spread the message of what this district does for special education students by supporting our Special Olympics program, we are grateful. Because of that, y'all were elected the 2016 Service for Outreach Award. So thank you all very much.
They made you change it recently.
Huh?
They made you change it recently, but you always change it.
Yeah. Do your username is initial and then your last name? Okay. I thought it was right about that. But
You get Eric to come out and do
oh, you're still in?
Well, I don't know if he knows your password.
You can always.
You all did this work.
You're good, right there. You can actually stay right
Y'all
there.
did this work.
There you go. All right.
They changed the last week. Huh? Mike, what? See,
Oh, you are?
the guy last week, he changed it. Because it used to be board 2012. Then, I kept the same.
Did you do capital B or whatever your first one is in capital?
I did capital B.
And it's flat. And it has to jump out. I don't know why, but it's like it has a spring in it. So be very careful. It will do it. So thank you all very much for helping us.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. We hold the Special Olympics program near and dear to our hearts in Goose Creek. Okay, next on our agenda is citizens' participation. Ms. Garcia? We have nobody signed up, okay. Moving to number 5, approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of the September 21st, 2016 special board meeting.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion from Ms. Coffey, a second from Ms. Woods to approve the September 21st special board meeting minutes. Any discussion? I guess we'll be the
Well,
only
and I
ones who
wondered,
vote.
since,
Mr. Peoples, do we have to vote on accepting this? It was the reading of the results of the tax ratification election. But if a person was not here, are they eligible to vote? Okay.
okay,
All right.
so.
Any discussion?
Should Mr. Richard be the one who seconds the
Second.
motion?
Okay, then I will second that motion. Amend the
Yes,
minutes
Jessica.
Ms. Coffey made the motion, and I seconded to approve the minutes from the September 21 meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, the motion passes 2-4, 0 against, and 4 abstaining, 1 absent. Okay, moving on to September 26th.
I move to approve the minutes of the September 26th board meeting.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Coffey, a second from Mr. Laredo to approve the meeting of the regular board meeting on September 26, 2016. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 5-4, 1 abstention, 1 absent. Okay. Discussion items. Mr. O'Brien.
So for our superintendent's report this evening, we have a report of GCCSD Maintenance Department. Mr. Walterside and Mr. Price will be presenting this evening.
I'm going to do it so quickly, we're just going to stand here and you all have this within your packets. What did you do? A very brief and quick overview of the maintenance department. The maintenance department can be considered the right arm of the district because it supports everyone's needs. It supports teachers, students, transportation, administration. Every arm or every branch of the district is supported by maintenance. You have our maintenance statement here. We deal with 3 different types of maintenance: reactive maintenance, scheduled maintenance, and preventative maintenance. Reactive maintenance basically just talks about corrective, those things that we've done that have gone wrong, we correct those things. Scheduled maintenance, think of a changing your oil, changing the belts on a conveyor or elevator. And then preventative maintenance, we want to fix it before it breaks.
Okay.
Go back, yeah.
All right, there we go. We have basically 4 different divisions in the maintenance department. We have what we call our sweep teams, which is made up of general maintenance guys. So they're skilled in various areas, but they're not specialized in just one. And so they go through our district in a sweeping motion, if you will. So, and our inspectors regularly inspect our campuses, and this is part of our preventive maintenance. So they go in there and they look and they do nothing but work orders all day long. They fill out lots of work orders. Then our sweep teams come in, and what we would consider general maintenance, they come in a sweeping motion, they go from one campus to the next. And every now and then we pull them off in a sweeping motion to go do specialized projects as well, larger projects. Building services, these would be our highly skilled cabinet makers, our carpenters, and they complete specific work orders that can't really be completed in a sweeping motion, if you will. They're not going to blitz crew. Mechanical, anything HVAC, plumbing of those natures, those guys are highly skilled in their trade because by licensures they have to be highly skilled. And then we have our electricians. That's our electrical as well as our alarms. So they too have to be highly skilled. And those are basically our 4 different divisions within our departments. One of the things we like to do on a regular basis is we like to look at how do we compare. So what we've been asked to do and what I've done, and some of you may be familiar with this, we've done it in the past, we look at where do we fall within sister districts in our area and throughout the state. And as you can see here, of course the first numbers come from TEA, and then we've reached out to other school districts and said, how many square feet do you have? So we can look at our school district and see where are we at. And what we find is that we're in the top 65 percentile, mostly in our area and within the state. And that's basically what that chart there represents. We also want to look at where do we fall historically with our district so that we can see and over time look at our efficiencies. And you can see there, dating all the way back to 2004 is about as far back as I could go, but I wanted to see what are we spending per square foot. Now we all know we've added quite a bit of square foot, but we haven't really increased our budget overall per square foot in the last 10 years. We've actually gotten better over time. And that includes all the increase in cost of goods as well.
Also within our system, within maintenance, we have a TMA work order system. That system allows us to keep track of all work orders that are turned in from the campuses, from the principals, from secretaries who put them in. And with that work order system, we can tell how many open work orders there are per campus, how many open work orders there are per event or anything, even down to the technician who's working on those work orders. We can, and by doing that, we can see how productive they are. So for instance, on this one right here, if we look at the month and the year, we can tell how many work orders were open that month and how many were closed. Just because one is open that month doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be closed that month, because we may be waiting on parts or it may be something that's ongoing. Okay. But it is important that we do know. We can even go down to the campus. How many work orders did Robbie Lee have for this month? How many work orders did any campus have per month? Who worked on them? How long did it take them to get them open or closed? That allows us to check our productivity, seeing how productive we are.
Through that work order system, we recognize that our department's a lot about people, process, and product. People are our employees. People are our constituents. Product is the product that we put out, right? But one of the main things we want to focus in on being efficient, being effective at what we do on a day in and day out basis is our processes. So over time, we've looked at developing those processes so that there's a clear understanding within our staff, within the community, of how we go about doing what we do. Mr. Price basically touched base on our work order system. We can look in that work order system, and you'll see it throughout our work order system. We prioritize every work order, from a light bulb being out, to an air vent that needs to be cleaned, to a carpet that needs to be replaced, and we prioritize it 1 through 4. If you're familiar with the FCA, Facility Condition Assessment, we follow those same guidelines so that in the future, we may have 11,000 open work orders, or we may have 21,000 closed work orders, but we're also building our overall facility condition. So that as we look, we know that year 2 and 3, we need to replace carpet. Other thing, we've developed a process to where we know that when we work on projects, when does it call for an architect, or when does it call for an engineer based upon the TEA guidelines? Asset repair, every employee that we have in our department follows the same process repair, so that we ensure that when we go down and we purchase a part, we make sure that that part's going towards that work order. Or when we have a work order that comes in from a campus, that we're prioritizing that work order to get it done as efficiently and with the right people. You wouldn't want to send a plumber to work on the electricity. So that within that work order system, it's routed to the right department. And all of these are yes/no questions for every work order that we receive. And we receive almost 20,000 a year. So those are some of the processes that we utilize on a daily basis within our department. And if there's...
And that completes our presentation, but we are proud to say that our department is running effectively and efficiently. Thank you.
Any questions? Got one. Do y'all have, you got your inspectors and you got your sweep team, you call it. Do you have y'all broken the district down in the quadrants where you have, say, these particular individuals working this quadrant all the time, so they know everything that goes on instead of running across?
In short, yes, we have in certain divisions. So, for example, our air conditioning division. I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, Gene Collinsworth knows where every squeak on an air conditioner system is at GCM, because that's his feeder pattern. So we've mimicked a lot about the feeder patterns with our electrical and in our highly skilled areas. Now with our sweep teams, we also mimic that, except we've kind of split it in half, the north and the south, if you will, or the east and the west. And that way, those guys get to know those campuses with the inspectors as well as the general repairs. So yes, we have.
There are some technicians that are assigned to separate campuses, so they get to know those campuses as to what goes on those campuses.
Mm-hmm.
But on a daily or monthly, they may receive help from other ones if the job is a little larger.
Our main thing is we want anything that we need to triage, we want to make sure that we do it as efficiently as possible. So it's not uncommon for us to pull somebody and say, you're better at this than this other gentleman, you can get it done more efficiently and faster. So we do that. Seldom, but we do.
On the campus, who is the primary source that would turn in work orders or service requests for service at their campus?
Most of the time, that's going to be a selected AP.
Okay.
Or it might be at the elementaries, the campus secretary who puts in those work orders.
But who on that campus is the person that is through their walk every day there?
The principal, should be responsible to walk through and to make sure our campus is up and running. He or his designee, he or his assistant principal.
Each campus has a designated person to enter any other associated work items that may fall through the cracks, or emergency situations, a room is hot, or something along those lines as well.
Any others? Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Guys, thank you.
Thank you for the report. Moving on to our action items. Mr. O'Brien.
Okay, under consent agenda, consideration of consent agenda A1, purchase and installation of carpet from Intex Flooring for the replacement of carpet throughout the district. Number 2, contract for services between the Greater Houston Big Brothers Big Sisters and Goose Creek CISD. Number 3, memorandum of agreement between BACODA, Bay Area Council on Drugs and Alcohol, and Point Alternative Center. Number 4, memorandum of understanding between the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center and Goose Creek CISD. Number 5, 2016-17 safety and security audit prepared for Goose Creek CISD. Number 6, change order number 4 as submitted by the construction manager at risk, CMAR, and to amend the CMAR contract with Marshall Construction Company, LTD, to reduce the construction cost of Impact Early College High School. Number 7, revision to DH Local Employee Standards of Conduct. Number 8, recommendation to pursue becoming a district of innovation. And number 9, extend the southernmost boundary of GCM High School zone boundary to the Wallace Road to accommodate further building development of Baytown.
Okay, does any board member want to pull any of these items so we can consider them individually?
Item A8, please.
Item 8. Any others?
I have a question about one.
Okay.
You want me
Is
to
it
wait until we,
item 9?
right,
Let's pull it so we
Okay.
can talk about it separately, if you don't mind.
it's just a real
I
simple
figured we'd have
question.
some questions on that one. Okay. Okay, we'll pull number 9.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve items A1 through A7, the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Laredo, a second from Ms. Coffey to approve consent agenda items 1 through 7. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. And because that item passes 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Okay. Let's look at number 8, the recommendation to pursue becoming a district of innovation. I will go ahead and I'll start the discussion if it's okay with y'all, because I'm the one who asked to put it on here. Okay. This is not a vote that is saying that we are a district of innovation. After attending a workshop at TASB with Mr. Poppy and Mr. Peoples, we kind of felt that if this is something this district is going to do, it is probably something we need to have in place before the legislature convenes next spring. That was kind of the intent of the speakers to say, better do it now while you can, not knowing what's going to happen when the legislature meets. This is not a motion to become one. It's only a recommendation for the district to begin the process of convening committees, looking at the paperwork involved, things of that nature. It would have to come back to us at a future board meeting for approval if we are going to become a district of innovation.
Do we at this point in time know, I know of some advantages. Do we know strings attached, some disadvantages? I mean, I've tried to do some research, but I really haven't found enough information to make me feel decided on this at all.
They had 2 superintendents, and it was led by a TASB person. They also had a charter person there, but he didn't say much because the two superintendents who had already implemented it for this year spoke. One of them only approved 2 of the, I think it's 8 tenants, Mr. Ryan? 2 of the 8 tenants. The other district went full-fledged and did all 8, not with the intent of using all 8, but just getting it approved if they wanted to use maybe tenant number 3 later in the future.
But it just seems to me as though a lot of these things break apart all that we've done to build up our education system to make it a good system. And so I'm concerned, that's my concern, that we're looking at undoing things that are good.
I have a few concerns as well. I have a big issue with, first of all, I don't think there's enough information out there, because I have somebody who's going to give me information on, because they told me don't do this. And because you might say, I know that you can adopt certain tenants or not and choose, but at the end of the day, we do what we have to do our best to control, to protect our local control and to protect our employees and our students and our teachers, and our parents. I feel like I feel like we're bowing down towards a walk towards a voucher program or something very close, because this is very close to a charter system, giving us allowances to do this. But if the state is going to make us become, knowing how the state legislator works, they'll make you do what they need you to do for the economics. And the source of this district innovation is not from a good source that wants to help public schools. This is why I'm against it. I'm sorry, but I'll go kicking and screaming if we have to, but just like we had to with everything else. But it's not fair that we have to bow down because there's a certain fear running across the state over what they can and can't take away. They're going to take away what they can. It's up to us as good servers of our constituents to spread news and tell them, hey, you need to vote against this, you need to do that. Just like we did with the TRS election. We have a responsibility to do this at the statewide election as well. And I cannot, in good conscience, vote for something that walks us towards that voucher program.
Mr. O'Brien, what is your recommendation on this?
But for this motion tonight, it's just to consider whether or not becoming a district of innovation would be a viable option for us as a school district. So my recommendation would be, yes, we can move forward with that consideration, but I would, for one, I think it's important when we're considering the future of the district to convene a steering committee of some sort where we get a committee together of citizens, including administrative staff, teaching staff, and with that steering committee determine if any of these 7 or 8 tenants are things we want to pursue, and or if all of them would be. But I concur publicly that I don't think all of these would be suitable for Goose Creek CSD. There's some of these that right off the bat you could say, well, this probably wouldn't work for us, this wouldn't work for us, but I don't want to condition the process or circumvent the desire to get a steering committee of our citizens and our team together to discuss these options further, the tenants further, and consider whether any of them would be viable. I think I've shared publicly before that some of my colleagues in neighboring districts have done it for one tenant. The calendar, possibly. It would be a favorable thing to adjust your calendar. So that's the point that we're at tonight, is to determine, do we want to consider any of the tenants or none of the tenants?
Well, I know that you at one point expressed a concern that if we become a district of innovation, there are strings attached. It's like, or if we don't, that we have repercussions. And so have you researched that any further?
Well, I concur that has been what you're referencing is my reference previously to waivers. The Texas Education Agency has the right to approve or deny waivers. And my understanding is, through just local research with talking to colleagues, is just simply that if you don't comply with the District of Innovation, you may or may not get your waivers authorized. So moving forward, I also have colleagues that say that they don't need District of Innovation that they're doing everything that they can do already. So it's a wide, and I have some that are jumping on board because, as Mr. Richard pointed out, there's some discussion with a legislative session looming that they could do away with all these options at the next legislative session. Say, well, you had your chance, and do away with them. So I have to share with you, across Region 4, the greater Houston area, there's a broad range of acceptance of this concept. It was brought on through TEA, but by our Commissioner of Education, who is, in his words, trying to remove the obstacles that sometimes public schools are inhibited with and provide more flexibility, or what they call local control. I'm all for everything to do with local control. So if we as a board and this team can make decisions without being impeded by the systems in place, and I'm all for that. So, but
Are you saying that they're holding waiver applications hostage if you're not a district of innovation?
that is what has been said. I can't validate that or confirm that.
We have not requested a waiver since this has been there, so we wouldn't be able to have any solid evidence whether or not, well, we could test the waters.
Correct.
And see what happens with the waiver.
So I think the question would be forthcoming, would be identifying if there is an advantage to it or not through the steering committee. Tonight's vote, as I understand it, is merely, do we want to explore this further and bring back a recommendation from, my recommendation would be from a steering committee that would examine these tenets a little bit more in detail and be able to talk specifically, statistically, about which school districts did what and that, and why, and so forth.
And that is one of the tenets of, before the board can even accept that kind of recommendation to become a district of innovation, you must have public hearings, you must have public input, and you must have a steering committee consisting of public and school personnel. It's not just something that Mr. O'Brien can say, okay, guys, we're going to vote on it.
Right.
It has to be a committee, a community decision, let alone just an individual administrative push. But someone has to get the ball rolling, and that's what this motion's about. It's not a motion yet, but this recommendation's about. Do we get the ball rolling or not?
I do have one question, and I know that we're just, because, in looking at some of the things that one of the things is teacher appraisal requirements, and I don't know what that means. And that's one of the reasons that I'm not in real big favor, because, I don't know if that means that the school districts get to develop an appraisal system, and I don't know if that's good for teachers. It may be good today, but who knows who's going to be sitting in these seats tomorrow? And those are some of the things, because I want our teachers to be productive and good, healthy employees that develop good, healthy children mentally.
Don't know if it's any consolation, but if you become a district of innovation, it's only good for a 5-year period. You're actually signing up for 5 years, and then at the end of that 5 years, you have to go through the whole process again. If it's still around in 5 years, we just don't know. It may not be around next May. We don't know what the legislature is going to do. Any more discussion? Ask for a motion.
I'll move that we pursue consideration to become a district of innovation as like a action item.
Okay. I'm going to second that motion. I know it's not out of line for a board president to second a motion. It is acceptable. So I will accept that just so that we can go on the record and have a board decision on this basis. Okay? So we have a motion from Ms. Woods, a second from Mr. Richard, that we pursue becoming a district of innovation. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will pass 4 for, 2 against, and 1 absent. Thank you. Okay. Action item number 9, extend the southernmost boundary of the Goose Creek Memorial High School zone to the Wallace Road to accommodate further building development of Baytown.
My question is, if you live on Wallace Road, if you live on the south side of the road, are you in the Sterling district then, in the north? Well, I mean, I know
Correct.
there's really not homes on the north
That's
side.
correct.
Is that correct?
It'd be just like some of our other boundaries, right down the road. The right side goes to one boundary, the left goes to the other.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion from Ms. Woods, a second from Mr. Richard, that we pursue becoming a district of innovation. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will pass 4 for, 2 against, and 1 absent. Thank you. If you look, and I don't want to call myself a geographer, but if you look what's to the right of that, it's a lot of undeveloped area. The railroad track goes back in there. I don't know if there's much in there now. Currently, it's a Sterling population. So if there are homes there now, they're not being affected negatively by it.
To the right, meaning to the south?
I'm sorry, to the south.
Okay.
To the south of Wallace. There is nothing to the north of Wallace currently that has students in it.
Right.
Okay? So it's basically an undeveloped piece of land. And I will just tell you that Mr. O'Brien and I had some meetings with potential developers out there because they wanted to know what we were going to do with it so that when they decide whether or not to develop, they would have concrete evidence where the kids would be zoned for. And Mr. O'Brien and I kind of felt that bringing the boundary south, because we have more room at GCM for further development of that campus to house more students in the future, because we already have a planned third wing or second wing that could go in sometime in the future.
Not only that, but it was indiscriminate whenever the line was drawn. It was just an open field. It just drew a line right down the middle of it. So there was no reason or rationale given for that line in the first place.
There was not.
So the people on Wallace Road would go to GCM now?
No.
North of
No,
Wallace.
north of Wallace Road,
Side of Wallace
Oh,
Road.
okay.
And there are
North
no
of Wallace
homes north
Road.
of Wallace Road.
yes. And there are currently no inhabitants north of Wallace Road to the current GCM Sterling boundary. And
I
it's-
move
it-
we, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
The line that we drew when we zoned for GCM 8-9 years ago actually has ended up where Kilgore Road almost fell, that cut across. So, but they're going to have development on both sides of the road, and they would prefer to have one high school in that community once it's built in 4 years, 5 years from now.
Move for approval?
Second.
Motion from Mr. Laredo, second from Ms. Coffey to approve extending the southernmost boundary of Goose Creek Memorial to Wallace Road. Any more discussion? All in favor, indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed? That motion will pass 5 for, 1 against, 1 absent. Okay, next is future board agenda items, board meetings. I don't have it on my calendar, but I assume we have a meeting on October 24th, correct? We have a regular board meeting on the 24th, and then on the 26th is when we have our Team of 8 training. Okay? Does anybody have any future agenda items you would like me to put on our calendar? None? Oh.
Well, I think that we need some more recommendations, information from, concerning the District of Innovation. If we're going to pursue this, if we're going to move forward, which we just resolved to pursue more knowledge, what types of exemptions are we looking for from TEC in order to, why? Why do we want to be a District of Innovation exactly? What are the exemptions that we're looking forward to, and how are those going to affect our...
At this point, what I think is going to happen is Mr. O'Brien will convene a steering committee, and that committee will hash all that out and bring reports to us as they go along in the process.
And I think...
And board members are welcome to be on that committee from what we understand. So if anyone who wants to volunteer...
the concerns that people have, on both sides of the issue, those need to be represented on that committee. We need teachers that are both for and are against it for one reason or another, as well as administrators and communities, parents, business leaders, and possibly board members.
And I leave that to Mr. O'Brien's charge of how to set that committee up and when the process would start.
Well, I think that Ms. Wood's
Oh,
recommendations are good.
I understand they're good recommendations, and as I said, you're welcome to volunteer to be on the committee. And if you know anyone on each side of the fence, give those names to Mr. O'Brien. Okay, all right. Moving on, next, we will be moving into closed meeting. The board will now recess into a closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Section 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.075, 551.076, 551.082, 551.083, 551.084, 551.087. No action will be taken while the board is in closed meeting. And we are back into open session. No decisions were made while we were in closed session. Now moving back to our agenda, we are on E, consideration of personnel action. Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, administration. The administration recommends that the board accept the resignations and elections as presented.
Move to approve.
Okay, I'll give that motion to Ms. Coffey to approve and a second to Ms. Cockrell to approve teacher elections and resignations as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-4, 1 absent.
We have an administrative election. Amy Gibson is math instructional specialist.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Cockrell, second from Mr. Laredo to approve Amy Gibson. Amy Gibson as math instructional specialist. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-4, 1 absent. You need to pull F. Do we need to officially pull F?
Yeah. And administration recommends withdrawing F from action.
Item F has been removed from the agenda for tonight. We are now at adjournment. Oh, yes.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Coffey and a second from Ms. Laredo that we adjourn. Mr. Laredo, I'm sorry. Whew. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We're adjourned.